Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, as you can see from the news, our Prime Minister does not think that we have a major problem on our sea bridge, and it's just a temporary issue that should be resolved within a few days. Now, joining us to speak a little bit on this is Mr. Rajiv Diptee, President of the Supermarket Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning and welcome to you. So, how are you doing?
Good morning, Candace. Good morning, Tobago. I am well.
All right, Mr. Dipty, could you give us an idea about on your end, how has the past 3 weeks been in terms of, making sure Tobago's groceries are supplied with the necessary goods and services on their shelves?
Since this issue of the Cabo Star has occurred, we've been in contact with various suppliers in Tobago as well as Trinidad, and we've held varying levels of concern for this situation. From what we understand, it's not something that we would like to see resolved as quickly as possible for the resumption of bulk shipments to the island. We understand that there are shipments going not in excess of 7 tons to Tobago, and this has created an issue where there's not been the volumes that have been available prior to the downtime that the Cabo Star has been experiencing, and it's something that we've been trying to assess with our supermarkets in Tobago, our suppliers in Tobago, and they've let us know that some suppliers have flagged it as a major issue, citing that if the issue isn't resolved very soon, that there can be significant problems where shortages are concerned. However, at this time, we are minded to suggest that it is not as dire as the implications are that it can become dire very quickly. However, the Prime Minister did say that in a few days that this resumption, that this service would resume. So we are holding on with bated breath, Candice.
Certainly. Can you give us an idea about the cost this is having on the sector, especially where supermarkets are concerned? What is the cost to a 3 week disruption in a free flow of goods across the islands?
Obviously, any disruption is going to have significant impact on the operations and definitely where the scarcity of goods are concerned. And that's something that you look at particularly with bulk shipments such as beverages and certain items that have to go across to Tobago and that are limiting the other sectors as well, particularly the food service sector and the hospitality sector,
Yes.
among others, that would have experienced this impact. And it's something that we are still measuring, quite frankly. It's something that where we've made attempts to try to get the goods across with mixed results, that we are still measuring this impact. And it's something that we are constantly in contact with a lot of supermarkets and suppliers in Tobago, and they are all trying different strategies. We are all still holding on for the service to resume in a meaningful way,
Mhm.
and until then, we've been trying. But to say that that there is an immediate food shortage crisis in Tobago, that's not been the discussion. The discussion has been one where we've been looking at trying to ensure that there is a continuous supply in the absence of the carbo star, trying to use whatever services have been available.
Could you give us an idea of what specific items from your end you have found it most difficult to get across to Tobago?
Right. So the reality is that those items you're thinking about would be the bulk items, the ones that carry more weight, the beverages in particular. I've had local suppliers express serious concerns to me about getting, as I said, things not in shipments not in excess of 7 tons across to the island, and
Mhm.
that's something that's been very concerning to us right now. However, what we've seen is that there have been attempts by local wholesalers, domestic wholesalers in Trinidad, to really step in and get goods across to the island. I think the concern where we've had some of those discussions is um, the pricing strategy that we've seen some retailers adopt, where the implication is that a shortage exists. Candice.
Yeah. Well, in that case, do can we expect to see any specific price hikes on any items at all, or is it that the situation, because the vessel might come back in a few days' time, it would resolve itself and the equilibrium will be restored? Like, what can you tell us where that's concerned?
Well, the sooner that the service resumes, you're going to see an equilibrium established.
Mhm.
That's a fact. Once that happens, the implication that we've been discussing within our umbrella network is that we expect a quality of assurance where the service to customers is concerned, and we try to ensure that there is no adverse pricing strategies coming out of this. And I
Mhm.
think it's something to keep an eye on, because where scarcity breeds, where supply is adversely affected, it creates scarcity, and that has an impact on anything that we may see coming negatively out of this. But we are hearing from just up to this morning that, as I said, certain suppliers and certain wholesalers and certain distributors have stepped in to try to ensure that there is some continuous um, supply to the island using alternatives. But the reality is that this situation does not resolve until the cabo resumes its service.
Mhm. And then if it does not come back in a few days' time, let's say it takes another week or two, will that then result in any sort of price increase in a week or two time?
Quite frankly, Candice, I think it's a fluid situation. It's one that we're continuously monitoring, especially with the food distributors network. The distributors themselves are letting us are keeping tabs. We are keeping tabs on the situation with them. It's something that is constantly being examined, and obviously, as more strategies and alternatives to get supplies to the island. It's not that there isn't any um, supply routes available right now, but we're working with what we have, and suppliers are letting us know, like, listen, there are some acute shortages, but an overall um, there's not an overall immediate crisis in the island. However, if this situation continues unchecked, we are going to have serious issues, as the situation as it stands right now is not something that can be tolerated. Um, it needs to be resolved.
Differently in terms of getting goods to Tobago? Like, do we have to continue depending on that cargo star or a designated cargo ferry, or is there something that we in Tobago can do to get some of the goods directly to us so that it won't be affected by a mechanical issue on one of our ferries?
I think that's an excellent question, Candice, because I think that what this situation has presented allows for an examination of what has been in place and what contingencies should be put in place, because this situation has revealed the fragility of the supply routes to the island, and um, the dependencies that have been revealed from this has been laid bare. And I think that what we're seeing now is also a discussion coming out of it of what can be put in place. So that discussion has been happening, it has been taking place, and we're hearing different stakeholders stepping in to make different examinations of this. But I think that I think that something positive can emerge from this, having seen very much how dependent Tobago is at the moment on this service.
Is this something that the Supermarket Association would be supporting? Is this something that you guys are going to, assist in advocating for, just to improve the way we get food in Tobago?
Of course, certainly. I think that a combination of stakeholders have expressed the desire for certain arrangements to be put in place to ensure that Tobago is not left out in this equation, and we would be clearly advocating for more streamlined arrangements or increased arrangements to ensure that the service and the supply of goods to Tobago is constantly being looked at, constantly being evaluated to ensure that there is a steady supply of goods to the island. I think that other stakeholders have really stepped into examine the current arrangements and what can be put in place. I think you also have to engage the government with certain avenues for constructive dialogue on this.
Mm-hmm. So would that mean that we could make arrangements how possible? I should ask you. I mean, you I guess would be very familiar with some of the suppliers that come into our country. But how possible would it be to arrange so that some of the goods do get stopped off in Tobago before they go to Trinidad or vice versa? So we don't have to let them all be stopped in Trinidad and then distributed across the country.
I think that really speaks to the robustness of the suppliers and their appetite for major distribution and their distribution sites and networks within Tobago, and then the shipments that they arrange from Trinidad to Tobago. I think that's more on the supply side, and I think that we're hearing that again that they want to re-examine the current situation, because you should have a certain level of cover for when these situations do arise, and that's something that we've been asking them about. Why is it that if there's an acute shutdown, as you mentioned, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, why is there not enough cover at your sites and along your network in Tobago? And I think this is going to really force them to increase that, at least re-examine that, and then, as you suggested, take a look at the shipping options coming out of Trinidad into Tobago.
All right. Well, as we're getting ready to wrap our conversation, Mr. Diptee, I just want to give you a couple minutes to just to speak to Tobago, because I mean, a lot of people are a little bit worried, a little bit anxious with this whole situation. Of course, we're all hoping the capital comes back in a couple of days, but just gonna give you a couple minutes just to wrap.
Certainly, Candace, and thanks again. It's something that we felt very strongly about. I personally have been monitoring the situation for the last 2 weeks, trying to ensure that there is that there are means to alleviate the crisis of sorts. And I think it's something that we've seen in the past where panic tends to set in, and that's not something that's healthy, because it brings back memories of COVID in that sense, when panic buying can set in, and consumers need to understand that there are a level of patience is involved with this, and we at the same time there have been some efforts to really ensure that the gaps have been filled. I just want to say that we are trying our best, and we will continue to do so, and people should not be overly panicked at this time.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Rajiv Diptee, head of the Supermarket Association of Trinidad and Tobago, for giving his perspective on what's going on our seabirds, especially where cargo is concerned. All right.
Thank you, Candace.
All right. Well, viewers, please don't go anywhere, because we've got a lot more coming up for you after the break. To a brand new dawn, and as the passion starter.